We're back to discuss Hacksaw Ridge, and if you saw our review, we all enjoyed the movie quite a bit. I don't necessarily agree that it's like Full Metal Jacket. I mean, maybe I can see where like the training sequences are a little similar, but other than that, like Full Metal Jacket is a very like from the beginning, it's a war is just a terrible, terrible, terrible thing, and it just keeps getting worse. Like the movie, things just keep getting worse and worse the whole time until it becomes almost a parody of itself in the end.
Right.
This movie doesn't feel like that. It feels more like, he has convictions that are not what the rest of the people that are going to war are thinking, and they call him out for it, and they don't think he's right for the job, and then because he's not focused on shooting people, he's focused on saving people, and he ends up saving a bunch of people. But it doesn't, like... I felt like it's an anti-war movie in summation, but I don't feel like it was beating you over the head the whole way through. That...
I wouldn't say beating you over the head. I think it would kind of give those who don't really know about war or who've read about it in books kind of another point of view, an actual view of how situations were. Like, yes, going into war is all about, defending your area, gaining more territory, or whatever you're going to war for.
Well, yeah, if it's an attrition war like that.
Yeah, however it may be, but it's kind of showing that, like, in the beginning when they were going up to the battlefield and they're like, tell me, how is it? None of the soldiers were talking. And then after they came back, they were all the same way. Mm-hmm. I mean, it kind of sheds light on what people think war is about and what they're going for, and then they get the, aha moment that, people are dying. Mm. I don't have a computer behind me, or I don't have a desk, or, I'm not on a ship. Mm-hmm. I have to think, so it kind of gives a little more bird's eye view, I guess I would say.
Sure.
About how war is.
Yeah. There's really great depictions of how shell shock is like in effect on some people.
Yeah.
Like just the acting on it was phenomenal in a lot of those cases.
When I was comparing it to Full Metal Jacket, it was more the framing of the movie. It wasn't as dark as Full Metal Jacket, of course, right. But how Full Metal Jacket, you had training at the beginning, and they built these characters, and you got to know Joker, you got to know Animal Mother, so on and so forth, and then they went to war.
Right. But Joker doesn't become the main character of the movie until halfway through.
True.
Which is, another thing that they don't have in common. So I didn't end up saying anything during the review part of it, but I thought, there might be people that have seen Full Metal Jacket and are like, yeah, I don't want to see that again.
That's why I describe it as the anti Full Metal Jacket, because it's kind of cinematically there's some similarities, but it has definitely different messages in my opinion.
Yeah. And explaining his life beforehand, kind of giving him the motive for why he won't use a gun, that sort of stuff, I thought was interesting. The scene where he is going in to be court-martialed, and he's basically, like, decides at the last minute that he's going to fight it. Like, if this wasn't a true story, I'd be like, no way does he get out of that. Like, no way does he not go to jail at this point. But
since this is based on a true story, I gotta wonder how many things are a creative license and how much is just straight up
I would
real.
say that they probably condensed quite a bit into that one scene. Like, I'm sure it didn't happen
that fast,
where he was just about to be sentenced and his dad walked in and all that sort of thing. And that's Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson's good at moving the story forward and keeping you interested. I just felt like that was a point where, like, whatever you believe, like, you can't believe that going to jail for the rest of the war is the right thing to do.
Right, and I was...
And you signed up for something like this.
Right.
one of the other things that caught me kind of weird was the false surrender scene, which I'm like, is that
No, that's true.
That's historically accurate.
Yeah, that's why Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened,
Well, I mean,
because they don't stop.
I understand the kamikaze stuff, but at the same time, at that point, this group of soldiers knew that their fight was over.
The Japanese do not surrender. Period.
Okay.
And so that fake surrender was absolutely real. And you saw them taking some of those guys prisoner at the very end, but that's not, like, by and large, that is not what happened. They always fought until they were dead, or and that was what Truman's decision was about. Was like, we're going to lose tens of maybe hundreds of thousands of men fighting this attrition war until every Japanese man is dead, or we have to just overwhelm them and convince them not to do this anymore. So yeah, that part of it I believed. And I actually thought, for a while, I thought that they were, the first, 40 minutes or so that they were actually in the battlefield, I felt like they weren't really doing much to show, what the Japanese were like, aside from they shoot at things. But then when they got more into the tunnels, that surrender scene, the, like, seppuku scene, like, that sort of stuff, it's like they did a good job of portraying the Japanese as the force that they were, rather than just the enemy. Like, they weren't portrayed the way that a lot of movies will portray Nazis, for example. Like, they weren't just pure evil; they were another military force.
And
So
another way of fighting too than we typically see.
it's a good sign that we're sitting here talking about the story and not about the movie. Like, that's the sign of a good film. So
The Sergeant's so great. I loved him.
Oh, Vince Vaughn?
Yeah, Vince Vaughn was great in
As soon as I
this.
saw him, I was just like, oh no. But I will say that I didn't hate his character in the movie. Like, he
he
did
was fine.
very well to not be annoying.
He was fine.
See, that was the first scene that got me like, oh man, they're doing their own little Full Metal Jacket. Because it's the Sergeant Hartman scene. Just a little bit more lighthearted.
Yeah, well, and it's also, like, I don't know how, and this is something I honestly don't know, but I don't know how many drill sergeants go to combat with the troops that they train. That didn't make any sense to me, but
Yeah.
I think that's another,
that.
like, sure, why not?
Yeah, let's just go. We need you.
We have already developed this character, so let's keep him. And
Right.
I thought it was weird that they all went together.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, oh, all right, we're done. Doop.
Like, including people who were higher up in the chain were like right there in the battlefield.
the captain and the sergeant all went out.
What's the captain doing here? It's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go along with it.
But maybe that did happen in some cases back then.
And I'm just like, all those little morphine things. I'm like, how do you keep those
Oh, the little syrettes.
yeah, how do you keep those hygienic? I'm like, that seemed like it's like,
Oh, they never showed the top on them.
yeah.
That they just always showed the bare needle.
Yep.
Yeah, they had an actual. Yeah, they didn't just like carry a bunch of like open
I'm
needles
sure,
around.
but I'm also kind of like,
He fell down, and that's.
Oh,
how
I
the
thought they
movie
had like
ended.
the little package that looked like a little ink thing, and then they would pull it off and then, stab you.
Yeah, but
Pretty
they
much,
they never showed anything but the pointy side.
Oh.
but it looked like there were also like metal things, and you're like in like wet, muddy war zone territory. I'm like, that's not gonna stay
Yeah, at
hygienic.
that point, that's the least of your problems.
It's true. Once you get
You're
the
not going to
morphine
die
in you-
from sepsis from your morphine shot.
That's true. It's yeah.
So many combat medics just fell over, and all those open needles hit them. They OD'd on morphine.
This is so great.
They're medic. They're like, I'm too afraid.
They did give our lead character
All their body.
a Jesus moment at the end there that was kind of like a bit much.
Yeah.
I get it, Mel Gibson. I get it. I get what you like doing.
Well, unless he died at the end, that's not. That scene wasn't okay by me.
Yeah,
Like him just floating up into space. It's just like
I was like,
Did this video game just glitch? Like, was he supposed to do that?
It's the Rapture. Bim is here. And
Bim is here?
yes.
Oh, jeez.
It would have been okay if he just slid down and they panned out. Like, I didn't need the whole heaven and earth. Like, so if you're looking for that type of movie,
Yeah,
It's-
they didn't beat you over the head with it, though.
One,
And
yeah, it's like one scene,
It's
and
one
really they
scene.
only panned out to give kind of like the clear sky, him in the middle, and then the horror of the battlefield in the distance. Mm-hmm. So it was more about framing that than just pounding you over the head.
I
yeah,
could have done the slide.
there's a lot of things they could have done, yes. But that was Hacksaw Ridge. If you like the way we do these, please like the video, subscribe, check out all the written video reviews at dalemaxfield.com, and thanks for watching.